The woman's voice cut through the cabin like a blade. "Sir, I need to see your boarding pass again." Every head turned. The man in seat 2A didn't move at first. Outside the window, the runway lights blurred in the distance, but inside the plane, everything had suddenly become very clear. He slowly looked up, calm, controlled. "I already showed it," he said. The flight attendant forced a tight smile, the kind that didn't reach the eyes. "Yes, but there seems to be a mistake." A few passengers nearby leaned in, pretending not to stare. "What kind of mistake?" he asked. Her tone shifted, sharper now. "This seat is first class." A pause. Then a man across the aisle chuckled under his breath. The passenger in 2A nodded slowly. "I'm aware." The tension started building instantly. Another attendant stepped closer, crossing her arms. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Now more people were watching openly. Phones subtly lifted, whispers spreading like wildfire. "He's in the wrong seat. They always try this. Just move him already." The man exhaled quietly. "What's the issue?" he asked again, still calm. The first attendant's patience snapped. "The issue is, you're not supposed to be sitting here, Attendants." A ripple of murmurs moved through the cabin. The man leaned back slightly in his seat, his eyes scanning the people around him, faces filled with assumption, judgment, quiet approval. Then he spoke. "And why exactly is that?" Silence for half a second. Then, "Because this is first class," the second attendant repeated, slower this time, like she was explaining something obvious. "And," he asked. The word hit harder than expected. The man across the aisle scoffed openly now. "Come on, man, and don't make this difficult." A woman behind him whispered, "This is embarrassing." The attendants exchanged a look. "Sir," the first one said, lowering her voice, "we don't want to cause a scene. Just come with us and we'll sort it out." The irony. He gave a small nod. Asini repeated, "You already made one." A few passengers shifted uncomfortably, but the attendants didn't back down. "Last warning," the second one said firmly. "Either you come with us, or we'll have to involve security." There it was, the threat, the same pattern, the same assumption. The man looked down at his hands for a brief moment, then back up again. Still calm, still composed. "Go ahead," he said quietly. That response caught them off guard. "What?" the first attendant asked. "Call security," he said. "Let's do this properly." Now the tension wasn't just uncomfortably, it was electric. Passengers leaned in closer. Phones were no longer subtle. This was turning into something bigger. The attendants hesitated. Then one of them turned and quickly walked toward the front of the plane. The cabin filled with whispers again. "This is crazy. Why doesn't he just move? He knows he's wrong." But through it all, he didn't move, didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He just sat there, like he belonged. Minutes felt like hours. Then the cockpit door opened, and everything changed. A man stepped out in full uniform, sharp, commanding, authority in every step. The pilot, the entire cabin went quiet instantly, because when the pilot walks out before takeoff, something is wrong. His eyes scanned the situation quickly. The attendants, the passengers, the man in 2A. "What's going on?" he asked. The first attendant stepped forward immediately. "Kubnevez, a passenger refusing to leave first class. His ticket doesn't match the seat." The pilot's gaze shifted slowly toward 2A. And the moment he saw him, everything stopped. His expression changed. Not confusion, not suspicion. Recognition. Real, unmistakable recognition. He took a step closer. Then another. And then a smile broke across his face. Not small, not polite. Genuine. "Captain Hayes," the man in 2A said, raising an eyebrow slightly. The entire cabin froze, because the pilot just laughed. A deep, surprised laugh. While Albi, he shook his head, stepping forward quickly. Marcus Reed, the name meant nothing to most of the passengers, but the tone, the respect, that meant everything. The attendants looked at each other, confused. "You know him?" one of them asked. The pilot turned toward them slowly. "You're asking me if I know him?" he said. Then he looked back at Marcus. "This man," he said clearly, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear, "trained me." Silence. Complete, total. "What?" someone whispered. The pilot continued, his voice filled with pride now. "He's one of the best aviation instructors this country has ever had." The words landed like a bomb. The same passengers who had been whispering moments ago now looked like they wanted to disappear. The attendants froze. Their confidence shattered in seconds. Marcus leaned back slightly, watching it all unfold. Still calm, still composed. The pilot turned fully toward the attendants now. "And you're questioning his seat?" he asked. No answer, no excuse, nothing. The first attendant finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly. We didn't know. That's the problem, Marcus said quietly. Every eye snapped back to him. He slowly stood up. The entire cabin seemed to shrink around him. You didn't know? He repeated. But you decided anyway. No one spoke. No one moved. Marcus stepped into the aisle now. And it wasn't just you, he added, glancing around at the passengers. A few people quickly looked away. You all saw it, he said. And most of you agreed. The man across the aisle who had laughed earlier suddenly found the floor very interesting. Marcus nodded slowly. Funny how that works, he continued. You see someone who doesn't fit your expectation, and suddenly they don't belong. The pilot stepped beside him now, standing slightly behind, almost like support, respect, visible, clear. Marcus looked back at the attendants. I showed my boarding pass, he said. Twice. They said nothing. You didn't check the system, he continued. You didn't verify. You assumed. Each word cut deeper. The second attendant's voice cracked. We're sorry, sir. Marcus raised his hand. She stopped instantly. No, he said. Don't apologize because you're wrong. Apologize because you understand. That line hit the entire cabin. Hard. Marcus took a breath, then glanced toward the pilot. You still flying the 787? He asked casually. The pilot smiled slightly. Every week, Marcus nodded. Good, you earned it. A small moment, but powerful. Because now everyone could see it clearly. This wasn't just some passenger. This was someone respected by the very person in charge of the plane. Marcus turned back to the cabin one last time. Respect isn't about titles, he said. It's about how you treat people before you know who they are. Silence, again. Heavy, real. Then he stepped back toward his seat, sat down, and this time, no one questioned it. No one whispered. No one laughed. The attendants quietly stepped away, their confidence completely gone. The man across the aisle didn't dare look up again. The woman behind him slowly lowered her phone, and the cabin stayed silent. The pilot gave Marcus one last nod of respect, then turned and walked back toward the cockpit. But before he disappeared inside, he paused, turned slightly, and said something that echoed through the entire plane. Welcome aboard, Captain. And, just like that, everything changed. Because now, everyone understood exactly who had been sitting in 2A the entire time, and why they should have never questioned it. Marcus didn't reach for his seatbelt right away. He just sat there, letting the silence breathe. It was different now. Before, it had been filled with judgment, whispers, quiet approval of what was happening. Now, it was heavy with realization, the kind that makes people replay their own behavior in their heads, wishing they could go back just a few minutes and choose differently. Flight attendants slowly walked past him, eyes lowered, movements careful, almost hesitant. It was the same woman who had first questioned him. She stopped. Just for a second, sir, she said softly. Marcus turned his head slightly, acknowledging her without fully looking. I understand now, she added. Marcus studied her face for a moment. Not fear, not just embarrassment. Something deeper. He nodded once. Good. She swallowed, then continued walking, quieter than before. Across the aisle, the man who had laughed earlier finally spoke, but not to Marcus. More to himself. I didn't think, he muttered. Marcus heard it. Of course he did. He leaned back slightly and said, without looking at him, that's usually how it starts. The man froze, didn't respond, didn't try to defend himself, because there was nothing to defend. A few rows back, someone slowly lowered their phone, deleting whatever they had recorded. The moment that once felt like entertainment now felt shameful. The energy in the cabin had completely shifted. Respect had replaced assumption, but it came too late. Marcus glanced out the window as the plane began to move, the low hum of the engines building beneath them. For a moment, everything felt normal again, but only on the surface, because inside that cabin, people had changed. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be departing shortly. Please make sure your seatbelts are securely fastened. A pause. Then, and I'd like to personally welcome a very special passenger on board today. A few heads lifted. Marcus didn't react. Someone who played a major role in shaping my career, and many others. The cabin grew still again. Thank you for being with us, Captain Reed. This time, it wasn't just silence. It was respect. Real, undeniable respect. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, not out of pride, but reflection. Because he had seen this before. Different plays, different faces, same story. The plane began accelerating down the runway. As it lifted into the sky, the city lights stretched beneath them like a fading memory. And inside, no one forgot what had just happened. A young woman sitting across the aisle finally spoke, her voice careful. Sir, she said. Marcus opened his eyes and looked at her. I'm sorry, she said. For what everyone assumed. Marcus held her gaze for a moment, then gave a small nod. Do better next time, he said. She nodded quickly. I will. And that was enough. No lecture, no anger, just a simple truth. A few minutes later, the same flight attendant returned, but this time, her posture was completely different. Professional, yes, but now, respectful. Captain Ree, she said gently, would you like anything to drink? Not, sir. Not hesitation. Recognition. Marcus looked at her for a brief moment, then said, water's fine. She nodded. Of course. As she walked away, another attendant leaned toward her and whispered something. This time there was no judgment in it, only awareness. Marcus rested his arm on the armrest, eyes drifting back toward the window. Clouds surrounded the plane now, soft and endless, peaceful, but his voice broke that quiet again, low, thoughtful. Funny thing about altitude, he said. The man across the aisle looked up hesitantly. Marcus continued, still looking out the window. The higher you go, the smaller everything below starts to look. The man nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Marcus turned his head slightly. That includes ego, he added. The message landed, clear, direct, unforgettable. No one spoke after that, not because they were afraid, but because there was nothing left to say. The lesson had already been delivered, and this time, everyone on that plane understood it perfectly.